All right, we're going to break down Pastor John Hagee's sermon, Prophecy Revealed. Now, this one makes some really big claims about Jerusalem, that it's at the very center of, well, everything, past, present, and future. So let's just dive right in. So the whole sermon, and I mean all of it, really boils down to this one big idea. Jerusalem is the spiritual White House to the world. What does that even mean? Well, according to this teaching, it's not just another city, it's the city. The one place on earth divinely chosen to be the most important, where God's name is supposed to be set forever. Okay, so first things first, the sermon lays out this foundational claim about Jerusalem's eternal significance. The argument here is that its importance isn't just a phase or a temporary thing. Nope, it's presented as a divine promise, something meant to last forever. And it gets pretty specific about what that means. Jerusalem is described as God's house on earth, the city of David, and get this, the future world headquarters for the church. The sermon makes a really bold point here. It says the city has been conquered 44 times. 44. And the only reason it's still standing, the argument goes, is because of a divine, unbreakable promise to protect it. And this is where this whole theological framework gets really personal. The sermon zeroes in on a single pivotal moment, a prayer at the Western Wall, that it says was the spark that ignited a massive global movement to rally support for Israel. So the story goes like this. It's 1978. Pastor Hagee is praying at the Western Wall. He describes his moment as a divine calling, a mission to unite Christians and Jews. This isn't just a feeling, though. It leads to real action. By 1981, the very first Night to Honor Israel is held. And what started as a local event just snowballed. It grew and grew, eventually becoming this huge national movement that led to the founding of Christians United for Israel, or SUFI, in 2006. And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, 10 million. According to the sermon, that's how many supporters SUFI now represents. And it all supposedly grew from that one prayer back in 1978. That's a pretty staggering claim. Okay, now the sermon shifts gears. We're moving away from personal history and diving headfirst into biblical prophecy. And this is where it tries to connect the dots between an ancient verse in the Bible and a major history-making event in the 20th century. It all centers on this three-step interpretation of a single verse, Luke 21:24. So step one is the prophecy itself. Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles. Simple enough. Step two, there's a condition. This will happen until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. And then step three, the big one, the fulfillment. The sermon points directly to the 1967 Six-Day War as the moment this prophecy was fulfilled, because that's when Jewish people regained control of Jerusalem for the first time in nearly 2 millennia. So, what's the massive takeaway from all that? Well, the conclusion is nothing short of world-changing. The sermon claims the 1967 war was the signal, the sign that the times of the Gentiles have been fulfilled. And this isn't just a historical observation. It's presented as a ticking prophetic clock, a clear message that the end times are here and the return of Jesus is coming soon. All right, the narrative then zooms in on a single, really significant object, the Jewish prayer shawl, also known as a talit. The sermon presents this not just as a piece of cloth, but as something with deep symbolic meaning woven right into its very threads. The claim here is pretty incredible, that God himself was the designer, that every single part of the prayer shawl has a purpose. You got the fringes, which are there to remind people of the commandments. Then there's the blue ribbon, a symbol to remind you that God is in heaven. And even the twisted coils are said to represent 8 different names for God, like Jehovah Jireh and Jehovah Shalom. And this prayer shawl, according to the sermon, shows up at some of the most critical moments in the New Testament. It's said that Jesus was given one at his bar mitzvah. It's identified as the hem of his garment that the woman with the issue of blood touched to be healed. It's even argued that it was the very cloth found neatly folded in the tomb after the resurrection. And looking forward, it's prophesied that Jesus will be wearing it when he returns. So for the final piece of the puzzle, the sermon basically pulls out a prophetic calculator. It presents a very specific formula to figure out exactly where we are on God's divine timeline. And, you guessed it, the answer lands right here, in the present day. So here's how the math works. It all comes from a verse in 2 Peter that says, "A day with the Lord is as 1,000 years." Okay, so one prophetic day equals 1,000 human years. The sermon then takes the roughly 2,000 years that have passed since Jesus' time on earth and, well, you do the math. That equals 2 prophetic days. And here's where it all comes together.
the sermon connects that 2-day calculation to a statement Jesus made about being glorified on the third day. So if 2,000 years have been 2 days, then that means we are now celebrating the birth of the third day. The argument is that we are living at the very beginning of that prophesied third day, right now.
So what happens on this third day? According to the sermon, it all leads to what's called the millennial reign. This is the vision of the future where Jesus returns to Jerusalem and rules the world for 1,000 years, 1,000 years of absolute peace. No more war, no more suffering, no more death. The story of humanity in this view comes full circle, returning to a state like the Garden of Eden.
So when you step back and look at the whole thing, you can see how it works, right? It weaves together a personal story, a major historical event, and very specific interpretations of Scripture. All these threads are pulled together to create this incredibly detailed and urgent vision of the future. This sermon builds its case, piece by piece, leading to a very specific conclusion about where we all stand today. Which leaves us with a final thought. How does a narrative like this, one that connects the past, present, and future so directly, shape how people see the world and their place within it?